Hello friends. Today we are going to discuss about the cost component structure in SAP controlling. Okay, so before we get into SAP system, we'll understand what is cost component structure and we list out all the list of details that we need to configure in cost component structure for controlling. Okay. So here you can see I have listed all the cost component structure list on the Excel file. Okay. So we have nearly 20 line items updated for this cost component structure. To start up with, we have the raw materials, packed materials, manpower, machine or depreciation, power, fuel, diesel, water, carriage inwards, and research and development, quality cost, repairs and maintenance, indirect material, indirect labor, indirect factory overheads, and we have subcontracting cost, external or partial manufacturing, additive cost, otherwise we call it as transfer pricing, byproducts or scrap or other cost. Okay, these are the list of uh, cost components that requires to manufacture a product. So we have to incorporate all the list of activities or list of items that we use to manufacture. We have to include all the cost that relevant to manufacture a product. Okay, so there could be multiple scenarios in which the business will work, but we need to incorporate all the list of business scenarios that exist for a particular business or a particular company, so that there is no need to add in future if there is any new business required. But in when it comes to cost component structure updation in the SAP system, so we need to find out all the list of business processes exist for a particular company, and we need to incorporate everything. So we cannot add any new cost components uh, once it is activated, once the material ledger is activated. So we have to find out all those business activities or the business process that exist for a particular company that we are doing configuration. So to start off with, we have raw material, pack material, manpower, which is labor, machinery or depreciation. We have power, fuel, diesel, water, carriage inwards, and research and development. There's a quality cost, repairs and maintenance. So indirect material like loose tools, nuts or bolts, which is required to for the manufacturing process. And we have indirect labor, which is like is there any extra labor is required or any contract labor is required to do the manufacturing. And indirect factory overheads includes insurance costs, rent, royalty expenses, all those things. And we have subcontracting, external, partial manufacturing, additive cost, we call it as transfer pricing. And we have byproducts or scrap or other cost. Here I mentioned other costs is like if in case like if you have incorporated all these expenses, if in case if there are any other costs that needs to be included in the near future, that then we cannot add it. So for that purpose, we are just adding one additional cost as other cost here. So if we need to add any other cost in future, we can rename it and we can update the GL accounts in this other cost. So for that purpose, we have to add other costs. If needed, we can add three or more also. But after activating the material ledger, we cannot add any new cost components in OKTs. Okay. So from row number two till nine, these are all PP master data where we need to incorporate all these data in the OKTZ. So here we have the first two items comes in the BOM, and the next manpower till water it is actually routing. It's a conversion cost. And we decided to have this carriage inwards and research and development as costing sheet expenses, which will be dealt based on quantity based or percentage based. And we have quality cost and repairs and maintenance, which we are going to uh, get it updated through template allocation, which is activity type plus cost center. and we have indirect material, labor, and overhead. So which will get updated and calculated based on primary cost component split. And these other costs we will add once we get into that particular scenario. So let's move on to SAP system and we'll start configuring the cost component structure. Okay. So before we, what is the prerequisite for this cost component structure is like we need to get the GL accounts created. So I have already created the GL accounts. Probably once you get into this cost component structure configuration, so I'll assign the respective GLs against these components. I'll show you. So okay, let's not wait. We'll get into this SAP system. We'll go to the T code OKTZ where we need to create the cost component structure. Okay, so if you click on new entries on the screen, okay, cost component structure, we have to put a two-digit variable. So our company code is LEUK, so I'll put it as LE. Here we'll update the name LEUK cost component structure. So up to this rule. So we can say so this line will this. Click on new entries. Save. Select this line. That will become this cost component structure. Click on increase. So here we have to select our cost component structure, which is LE. So here it should be updated as 10, 20, 30, 40. These are all lines. Okay. So how we updated. So likewise, this 10, 20, 30 we have got it. So copy this raw material. Paste it here. Okay, so before I get into this, say this, I'll explain what are these, what are the options we have to select here. So in the cost to share control data, where we need to select fixed and variable cost, and the filter criteria for cost component structure views on item section. So here we need to select cost of goods manufactured because all this cost is actually total, all these cost in total we call it as cost of goods manufactured. So we need to select this option as cost of goods manufactured. And inventory validation, we should select as fixed and variable cost. This particular, in this particular situation, the accounting entry gets generated. Accounting document will get created. Okay, so if you select variable cost and here also if you select in control data variable cost, the system will ignore this fixed cost in the inventory valuation. So, so that to avoid that, we need to select fixed and variable. And here also in control data also we have to select fixed and variable. Okay, when it comes to commercial inventory, this is actually just for information purpose. In costing one tab, we have tax one, two, three, four. Likewise, we have some information. So this is just for information purpose. And for the commercial inventory, that there won't be any accounting documents will get generated. And moving on to the cost to roll up, which is like roll up cost components. So this is just a roll up cost component because let me explain that. So we have raw material cost and we have conversion cost, SFG, and conversion is manufacturing. See, 25, 8. So we just take an example of raw material cost comes to 100 rupees and we are doing some conversion activities, then comes to 30. So total SFG is like conversion of this raw material into SFG. It comes to 130. If we add this conversion is nothing but a manpower. We are converting the raw material into semi-finished product. For that, what are the expenses that we are incurring? So that we call it as a conversion cost here and 30. So, and we are getting the SFG. And from SFG to FG, we are doing some conversion. We are incurring some expenses to convert this SFG into FG with some 20 rupees. So, total FG cost is like 150. Okay. So, the roll up cost is nothing but the cost which is getting rolled up from raw material to FG is called the roll up cost. So, uh, say for instance, like if you don't check that roll-up cost here, then your raw material cost will not get updated. If it is not get updated, you'll see your FG would comes to 50 rupees. So, to incorporate that conversion cost, raw material cost, conversion cost, and all these roll-up costs to get the complete, the final FG cost, then we need to take that roll-up cost component here. Okay. So let's click on save. We'll go one step back. You can go one step back. Select this line. Double click on assign cost components. So here you have to click on new entries. Go to select the cost component structure. Chart of accounts is LE and O and GL accounts. So we have to select the GL accounts. Raw material cost GL accounts, like we need to select the consumption raw material, semi finished and FG finished the GL accounts. We select the chart of accounts. So we have to select the raw material consumptions. And from and to would be like raw material FG consumption. So this the concept. Copy this. Two will be this one. Three. And the cost component structure goes. This goes, press enter. So likewise, we have to do it for all the other components. So, click on the increase. Next, actually, we will ignore this back material, diesel and wood, because it will be lengthy. So that's why we So back material, diesel or water, you have to ignore. So it will be lengthy. That's why. So first components also should be oil, 20. The next would be manpower. Also, so from your entries, you select the cost component structure, which is E. Startup accounts is LE and work. So here we have to select the chart of accounts is LE and work. So we need to create a separate GL accounts for this internal activity allocation. So we need to select the category as 43. So I'll put a separate video for creating the GL accounts, secondary cost GL accounts for 943 and 941. So I've already created the GL accounts. Like we have to select the second to first GL accounts, which is 943, 943. Select the full sale. So go to this cost group, click on home increase. So it's 30. So 30 would like machinery depreciation. Yes. Sale. We done the awesome customers. This. Here we need to select the input to the so so we decided to have this 943 43 category, which is missing out depreciation. The first one that was just the okay. Let me say that will become the cost combination. So this 40 is power. Income is sale. Double click on the asking first compound. Click on new entries. Select the first compound structure. We have no chart of accounts from first to this. Here we need to select and for the three category, we need to select the you can set that will become the first compound with attributes. You can go this. Select the LED. Okay. Place fuel. Set. That will become the first design. LG. So fuel cost means we have to select. Fuel is actually secondary cost element, which is the 943 04. And cost components of the will be select fuel. Becomes complete on cost component. Please. Next one is 60. 60 will be carriage inwards. As we discussed right now, rather to we observe carriage inwards sale. So carriage inwards expenses we need to we need to create a separate GL account for with the 41 category, and then we need to assign it. Since I have already created, assign that 41 category. At the end of this video, I will explain also how I created GL account 43 and 41 category. So here we will select first combination set and sort of the organization journey inward. So carriage inwards, we are going with the 41 category. So oops, select for the first one. Oops, 60. From save. You have to click on this one, click on your entries, select our first component structure, 70, research and development, click on save, double click on the assignment, click on your entries, product accounts LE and work, the Jira. Carriage invoice, so 941 category. Research and development. Assign the so we are done with this and quality cost and repairs and maintenance. So for quality cost and repairs maintenance, again we are using 943. We decided to have this template allocation, which is activity type plus cost center. So we need to use the secondary cost elements, which is 943 category. I'm sorry, 43 category. So to go down with 70. So again, the on the cost component, click on new entries, select our cost component, which is clearly to 80 with the previous quality cost. Just to do that. Same. Double click on the assignment, click on new entries, select our cost component, chart the bottom, Jira forms. So this is carriage invoice. So, sorry, cost, quality cost. So quality cost 9 for 43. Quality charts, quality black. So internal activity. So 943 also is fine with 43 category workers and quality cost. Okay, select our first one. Cancel. Again, go to the first component. Go down to 80. Now go to 90. We will enter 30. Just 90. So what is 90 here? Replace 90. So, okay, send the on universe. Select our first person, share, chart out of the names. The select G account, which is 43 category. The chart of accounts is LE and so repairs and maintenance will be select. So this is 943. Edit this from four. You can sort of accounts. So we need to select 943, which is repairs and maintenance. With 43 category, you have to select. Therefore, includes. So now again go to cost component structure. Conveniently, now we have to do it for another input. Select of our cost component structure. So maximum three digits allowed. So indirect material becomes sale. Example, office. Chart of accounts will be select OE and for indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect factory overheads, we have to select the primary cost component, primary cost elements. So here in the indirect material, this is 4 1 series, which is the primary cost element, indirect material. Go for the indirect material. Click on sale. Double click on the cost component. Next, we need to do it for 110, which is indirect labor. On sale, double click on this assign for new entries. Select the word first component. Chart of accounts, GL accounts, you have to select the primary GL accounts, primary cost elements, indirect labor, select our click on save. Click on the first column. What you have to do, like indirect keywords, select the customer. Next is quantity. Products. This one also we are going with primary cost elements concept. Double click on the assignment. Click on inventories. Select our first, first column structure and click our chart of accounts. Cost components. You have to select the primary cost elements for direct factory overheads. Which is 44107. We pick our cost component, which is 110. So we can scale. To create the okay, so fill this we updated. So you need to create for all these three years, all the five years. Subcontracting cost. As I mentioned that we need to incorporate all these costs, which may exist in future also. So we need to discuss with our client and we need to bring everything over here. We should not miss anything because in between we cannot add. Once it is activated, once material ledger is activated, we cannot add anything. This is 130. Sorry, I'm getting lost. I'll say, please. So I've not created any GLs for subsequent development. So when we start that process, then we create that. So for now, there is no need to, it is not mandated to us in the GL. So we can still select this. In future, we can assign the GL. Assigning the GL and removing the GL or changing the GL is not at all a problem. So, but this particular component has to be created. See, there is no error. It is getting saved. But creation of this particular variant should be mandatory. If you miss or if you do not add any new things, if you don't add a particular component here, if in future if you want to add, you cannot add it. That's the challenge. So to avoid that situation, so we need to bring everything here. So next one is external or partial manufacturing. Just okay. Set. Double from the assignment for new entries. First component you have to select the heat. And then you need to select the sort of first elements because you have not created. You have this one. Concept. So look at this one, you see what this added on. This is the longest one. Some data. You select our first one. Just 40%. Save. Okay, let's come out and see. This is, I think it may not save. Yeah. This the last one. Select this and click on the assembly. That's, so we're getting it's So I think server issue. This is not a problem. But this check that data. So in the meantime, we will create the other, which is additive cost. We otherwise call this transfer pricing. It doesn't click on unit this. Start the button early and select 24. Really, the problem is like GL assignment. We are not. That's why it is considered not saving this. So we need to assign some GL first. Okay, let me create some GL accounts from external additive first. Okay. So what can do that instead of creating a new GLs, we can create all the cost component structure over here, and in future we can assign the GL. Okay, so we have created till additive cost. We'll go to the next one, this byproduct. Because adding the new cost component structure here in future is not permissible by SAP because it will throw error. We cannot add it here. But assigning the GLs, removing the GLs, adding all those things we can do. But we cannot add 160, 170, 180 kind of thing. We cannot add. So to avoid that situation, we need to create all the list of components for this cost. So now we need to add the next one, which is econ mute. Is that the product 160 by product. Yes, let me set this 70. So I added only one other cost in for your requirement or for your business requirement. If you want to add multiple cost components over here by adding the name as other cost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it is well and good because in future we cannot add anything new after material ledger is activated. So I would advise to you to check with your business with to get the list of all the cost components that exist for that business process. If in case in future if they have any new business process, I would advise you to create other costs like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that you can edit your the description over here and add the jail accounts. So this is what it is. Mm. So let me explain about this subcontracting charges. What is this? Uh, uh, what do you say? External or partial manufacturing, additive cost, and byproducts, all these things. So let's first go into this subcontracting charges. So say for instance, we have this list of cost components. Okay. So row number till 2 till row number 16, these are all internal activity. So internal cost. So starting from 17 till 21 row number, these are all external costs. Okay, so internal cost means like we do the manufacturing. Okay, so we do the manufacturing inside the premises, and what are the expenses incurred, that is called the internal expenses. So these are all the expenses incurred outside the premises. Okay. Okay, so start off with subcontracting cost. So there is a business process where we don't have the setup. Say, for instance, we have only the material and we don't have the setup to manufacture. We don't have the setup or we don't have the time to manufacture the product. So in this case, what we do now, we provide the material. We provide the raw material and packed material to the vendor. They will do the manufacturing, which means that they will do all this manufacturing process starting from 30 till 150. Okay, so they'll do the manufacturing and they'll provide the FG to us. Okay, so we need to pay only the charges to them. So that process is called subcontracting process. So we are paying only charges like the manufacturing charges, which means whatever the expenses incurred in manufacturing that product, for that they are charging some expenses. That charge we have to pay. So that charge is otherwise called as subcontracting charges. Okay. So there is another process. It's like external or partial manufacturing. So in this case, what happens? We do some part of manufacturing. Say, for instance, in this case, we have raw materials. We do manufacture internally, but we don't have the capacity or time to pack the finished product. Okay, so what for that purpose we are giving our finished product. Okay, finished product into to pack that product to a separate vendor. Okay, so that process is like partial manufacturing. Which means that we are doing some manufacturing process and we are not doing this packing. So packing will be done by a separate vendor, and we don't have that setup to the packing in our premises. So what we do now, we provide our SFG or FG material to them. They will do the packing and they will give it to us. So for that, they are charging some expenses. So this is one way. Uh, this is one way we do this. This is called partial manufacturing. In other way also we can say that partial manufacturing, like there are two different manufacturing process uh, where we do first level of manufacturing and the second level of manufacturing will be done by the external vendor. So that is also called as partial manufacturing. And next one is like transfer pricing. So transfer pricing is like so transfer pricing means that transferring the goods from one legal entity to another legal entity. Okay. So if you are transferring your goods from one legal entity to other legal entity, so you would incur some expenses like driver salary, diesel, petrol, toll gate charges. All these charges you will incur. Okay. So in this case, you have to add that expenses in your material. So there are two situations where whether you can add or not, add that expenses or not. Okay, so if you are transferring a material from one legal entity, okay, legal entity, yeah, legal entity. Okay, so material transfer from A to B. So if we have a two separate legal entity, which is two company codes we have. So in this case, you can add the expenses in the receiving company code. Okay, this is intercompany transfer. Okay, so you are legally binding and you are legally uh, authorized to add the expenses, whatever I mentioned about like driver salary, diesel, petrol, all these expenses when you are transferring the goods from one legal entity to another legal entity. Okay. Say for instance, if you are transferring within the legal entity, okay, you are transferring from legal entity A, which means plant A, to same legal entity with plant B. So you are not supposed to add this expenses. Legal entity would be able. So in this case, you should not add these expenses because you are not legally binding to add these expenses if you are transferring the material from the same from one plant to another plant within the same legal entity, which is intra-company expenses. So that you cannot add. Okay. So this is the difference between intra-company and the inter-company when it comes to transfer pricing and scrap byproducts, all those things we'll discuss in the upcoming session. And if you have any questions regarding this cost component structure, you can post your questions. And I will add one thing. Okay. So as I mentioned for the transfer pricing, I mentioned the legally binding, which is intercompany, and the other one is intra-company. So for that, if you need to maintain the cost, then you have to activate this transfer pricing surcharge over here, and uh, the delta profit center for group costing. Here we have to activate company code for legal valuation and profit center for intra-company transfer. Okay, which is profit center valuation. So that we will discuss in the next upcoming classes. Okay, if you have any questions, you can post your questions and feel free to ask your questions, and I'm happy to help you. Please subscribe this channel and share this video with your friends. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it is really helpful for you.